Hello, and welcome to the Sleepy Storyteller. Welcome to our quiet sanctuary, a place carved out of time just for you. Find a comfortable position, letting your body feel heavy and supported by the bed beneath you as you begin to let go of the day. Breathe in softly, and as you breathe out, release the thoughts, the worries, the lists, let them drift away like clouds on a gentle breeze. Tonight, we are not here to solve anything. We are not here to strive. We are simply here to wonder. I invite you to join me on a journey, a very old journey. A journey that begins in the deepest, most velvety darkness and ends in a sky filled with heroes, beasts, and whispers of ancient dreams. We're going to wander together through the night and discover the gentle birth of the constellations, how those shimmering patterns were given their restful names. Imagine with me now a time long before the hum of cities, before the glow of screens. Imagine a world cradled in a profound and perfect darkness. A darkness so complete that the only light was that of the moon, the crackling fire, and the stars. Oh, the stars. On those nights, the sky was not just a ceiling, it was a canvas. A vast infinite dome of deep dark velvet, pierced by a million glittering diamonds. It was a spectacle of such overwhelming beauty, such silent majesty, that it must have filled the hearts of our ancestors with both awe and a deep, quiet comfort. For in all that vastness, in that silent, spinning cosmos, human beings did what we have always done. We sought connection. We looked for patterns. We found stories. Let us begin our journey there on that soft, dark earth, looking up. Chapter 1. The Canvas of Night. Before the stories were written upon it. Let us first appreciate the canvas itself. As you rest tonight, picture the sky above you. It is not flat. It is a sphere of impossible depth. Each point of light is a sun, like our own, a blazing furnace of gas, burning across unfathomable distances. The light from the nearest of these stellar neighbors has traveled for years to reach your eyes tonight. For long years from Alpha Centauri, a journey of trillions of miles. And the light from the more distant stars has been traveling for centuries, for millennia. When you look at the night sky, you are not just looking out into space, you are looking back in time. Each star is a tiny, shimmering postcard from the past. A little hello from a time long gone, arriving just now just for you. Think of the star Vega, a brilliant blue-white jewel in the summer sky. The light that touches your eyelid as you drift to sleep tonight left that star around the time your grandparents were born. It has journeyed through the cold, silent void for 25 years, carrying a story of a brilliant youthful star, only to end its journey as a gentle glimmer in your perception. There is no rush in the cosmos, only a steady, patient, celestial dance. And why do they twinkle? The poets would say they are winking, sharing a secret with you. The scientists would tell a story just as magical. That steady, ancient light travels all that way, straight and true, only to hit the very top of our atmosphere. And in those last few miles, it passes through pockets of warm and cool air, a shimmering, invisible river that bends and shifts the light just slightly. So a twinkle is the feeling of starlight dancing with our own world's breath, a final, beautiful flourish before it comes to rest with you. As you lie here, breathing gently in and out, you are a part of that dance. The air you breathe is the same air that makes the stars shimmer. You are connected, in this very moment, to the vast and beautiful expanse above. The ancients didn't know about light years or atmospheric turbulence, but they felt it. They felt the mystery. They felt the connection. They lay on their backs on cool desert sand or on green hillsides, and they watched, night after night, season after season. And they began to notice that the stars were not scattered randomly. There was an order to them, a rhythm. Certain groups of stars would rise in the spring, heralding the time for planting. Others would dominate the winter sky, a comfort during the long, cold nights. They were a clock, a calendar, a map, but more than that, they were company. In the deep, quiet dark, these points of light felt like companions. And so, Our ancestors gave them the greatest gift they could. They gave them identities. They connected the dots, and in those patterns, they saw themselves. They saw their fears, their hopes, their gods, and their heroes. They began to tell stories. And in doing so, they turned a sky of random lights into a home. Let us drift now back to one of the cradles of civilization, to the Fertile Crescent between two rivers, the land of Mesopotamia. It is here, under a hot, clear sky, that some of the very first star stories were born, stories that you might recognize, whispering to you even today. Chapter 2. The First Storytellers of the Fertile Crescent. Let us wander back in time 5,000 years or more. We find ourselves in the warm, dry air of ancient Babylon and Sumer. The land is flat, the horizon is wide, and the sky is everything. Here, life is tied to the rhythm of the rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, and the rhythm of the seasons. To know when to plant the barley, when to expect the floods, and when to harvest was to know the secret of survival. And that secret was written in the stars. The priests and scribes of this land were the first true astronomers. They built great ziggurats, stepped pyramids that reached toward the heavens, not just as temples, but as observatories. From their heights, night after night, they would record the movements of the moon, the planets, and the star patterns that we now call the zodiac. To them, this band of constellations through which the sun, moon, and planets appeared to travel was profoundly important. It was a pathway of the gods. What happened in this celestial path was a divine message. Imagine a Babylonian priest resting on the cool clay bricks atop a ziggurat. He looks up at the sky in the season of spring. He sees a powerful cluster of stars of V-shape, like the head of a mighty beast, with a long back and a fiery reddish eye. This is the season when the earth is plowed, when the strong, tireless oxen pull the wooden plows through the soil, preparing the ground for new life. And so, looking at that pattern, he sees the bull of heaven, Good Anna, a creature of immense power, fertility, and divine strength. The bright reddish star that forms its eye, we call it Aldebaran today, which comes from the Arabic for the follower, as it appears to follow the Pleiades star cluster across the sky. But to the Babylonians, it was the eye of a cosmic force that signaled the renewal of the world. It was a promise, written in starlight, that the earth was ready once more. As you rest, perhaps you can picture it, not just dots, but the powerful head and horns of a celestial bull, rising in the east, a silent, reassuring guardian of the new season. Its presence in the sky was a deep comfort, a sign that the cycle of life continued. Now, as the seasons turn, as the spring gives way to the heat of summer, the bull of heaven begins to set, and a new figure takes center stage on the divine path. The priest watches as a new pattern rises. It has the shape of a reclining animal, a majestic arch of stars forming a great mane, a heart star beating brightly in its chest, and a tail curving at its end. The heat is now at its most intense. The sun is at its most powerful. And what animal represents power, royalty, and the fierce heat of the sun better than the lion? They saw the great lion, Uardakgula, striding across the summer sky. Its brightest star, which we know as Regulus, meaning a little king, was known to them as Sharu the king. It marked the very heart of the lion. Its presence signified the peak of summer's power. To see the celestial lion in the sky was to know that the sun was at its strongest, that the days were long and hot. It was another chapter in the great annual story. The bull of spring had given way to the lion of summer. The sky was telling a tale of the changing earth below. These were not just whimsical tales. They were a fusion of science and spirit. By tracking the bull and the lion, they created a calendar. By honoring them as divine figures, they found meaning and order in a world that could often feel chaotic. They looked up and saw other figures too. They saw a maiden holding a stalk of grain, which we now call Virgo, her appearance heralding the harvest. They saw the balanced scales of Libra, marking the time of year when day and night were of equal length, the autumn equinox. They saw a great scorpion, with its curved tail and stinging heart, a creature of the darker, hotter parts of the year. Each constellation was a chapter, a divine memo, a restful sign that everything was in its proper place, moving in its proper time. The stories they told were a way of making sense of the universe, a way of finding their place within its grand design. And these stories, born in the warm air of Mesopotamia, were so powerful, so resonant that they began to travel. They were passed down through trade routes, through scrolls, through whispers from one culture to another. They drifted across the desert sands and over the Mediterranean Sea to a land of mountains, islands, and a people who loved stories more than anything. Let us drift there now on a gentle imaginary tide to the shores of ancient Greece. For it is here that the bull and the lion and all their companions would be given new names, new adventures, and would become the immortal figures of the sky that we know so well today. Chapter 3. The Greek Pantheon in the Sky. As we leave the fertile plains of Babylon and drift across the wine-dark sea, we arrive in the world of ancient Greece, a world of rocky islands, clear blue waters, and a people with a boundless imagination. The Greeks inherited many of the star patterns from the Babylonians, but they didn't just adopt them. They repopulate the heavens with their own pantheon of gods, goddesses, heroes, and tragic figures. For the Greeks, the night sky became a grand celestial theater, a permanent monument to their greatest myths. Every star pattern was a final scene, frozen in time for all eternity. As you settle deeper into your rest, let your mind become a stage for these epic tales. We will begin with one of the greatest and most dramatic sagas ever written in the stars, the story of the royal family, the tale of a queen's pride. Our story begins with a queen named Cassiopeia. Imagine her a beautiful but terribly vain ruler. She was so proud of her own beauty and that of her daughter Andromeda that she made a foolish boast. She declared that she and her daughter were more beautiful than the Nereids, the sea nymphs who attended the god of the sea, Poseidon. In the world of Greek myths, there is no greater offense than hubris, the prideful belief that a mortal can be greater than the gods. The Nereids, deeply insulted, complained to Poseidon, and the sea god, in a rage, decided to punish the entire kingdom for the queen's vanity. He sent a terrible sea monster, Cetus, to ravage the coastline. The beast was immense, a creature of nightmare and sea foam, destroying ships and threatening to swallow the entire kingdom. The queen's husband, the wise but helpless King Cepheus, consulted an oracle to find out how to stop the monster's rampage. The answer was horrifying. To appease Poseidon, they had to sacrifice their own beloved daughter, Andromeda. And so, with heavy hearts, the king and queen led their daughter to the rocky shore. There, they chained her to a great rock, a beautiful, innocent offering to the hungry beast from the depths. As you listen, you can almost feel the cool sea spray, hear the desperate cries of the princess, and the monstrous roar of Cetus approaching from the waves. But look, in the sky, a hero is coming. Perseus, one of the greatest heroes of Greek myth, was flying home from another adventure. He was returning from his quest to slay the Gorgon, Medusa, the monster with snakes for hair, whose gaze could turn any man to stone. In his satchel, he carried the monstrous, severed head. As he flew on his wing sandals, he looked down and saw the beautiful princess chained to the rock, the monster closing in. He swooped down and landed beside her. He promised to save her if she would agree to be his wife. She and her parents readily agreed. Perseus then faced the mighty Cetus. Some versions of the story say he fought the beast with his gleaming sword, but the more famous telling is that he used his secret weapon. He averted his own eyes and pulled the head of Medusa from his bag. He held it up, and the moment the sea monster laid its eyes upon the Gorgon's face, it was instantly turned to stone, crumbling into a lifeless, rocky reef in the sea. The kingdom was saved. The hero married the princess, and they all lived on in legend. The gods, wishing to commemorate this grand tale of pride, peril, and heroism, placed all the characters in the sky as a permanent reminder. As you rest tonight, if you were to look up, you could find them all. There's Cassiopeia, the vain queen, a constellation shaped like a W or an M. As punishment for her boast, the gods placed her on a throne in the sky, where for half the year, as the sky turns, she is forced to hang upside down in a most undignified position. A lesson in humility. Nearby is her husband, the noble King Cepheus, a dimmer, house-shaped constellation, forever watching over his wife and daughter. And there is the beautiful Andromeda herself, a graceful arc of stars. One of these stars, Alpheratz, connects her head to the great square of the constellation Pegasus, the winged horse that sprang from the neck of Medusa when Perseus defeated her. So even the horse has its place in this celestial family tree. Of course, there is our hero Perseus, a bright constellation, forever striding across the winter sky. He holds his sword high, and in his other hand he holds the head of Medusa, represented by the fascinating star Algol. The name Algol comes from the Arabic ras, Algol, meaning the demon's head. And for centuries, sky watchers noticed something strange about this star. Every 3 days, it would dim significantly for a few hours, before returning to its full brightness. It seemed to wink menacingly. We know today that Algol is an eclipsing binary star system, 2 stars orbiting each other, and one periodically blocks the light of the other. But to the ancients, it was the blinking, evil eye of the defeated Gorgon, a truly terrifying and magical sight. And finally, even the monster Cetus is there, a large, sprawling, but faint constellation in the watery part of the sky, a reminder of the dangers that lurk in the deep. This entire family, this whole epic drama, is laid out in one section of the night sky, a story you can trace from star to star. It's a story about the consequences of pride, the courage of a hero, and the reward of innocence. It's a story about family in all its messy, beautiful, and sometimes dangerous glory. Let that story gently wash over you, a celestial lullaby. Of course, let us drift back to that ancient star-filled sky, where the great myths were born. The story of the royal family is but one epic poem written upon the heavens. The Greek sky was filled with such tales, a grand library of heroism and tragedy. And among all the heroes, one stood stronger and perhaps more sorrowful than any other. Let us now turn our gaze to a different part of the sky, to a large, sprawling constellation that represents the mighty Heracles, whom the Romans would later call Hercules. He was the son of the king of the gods, Zeus, and a mortal woman, born with strength beyond any mortal. His life was not one of ease. It was a life of trial, suffering, and of monumental tasks, known as the 12 labors. These were punishments given to him for a terrible act committed in a fit of madness sent by a jealous goddess. But through these labors, he would find redemption and, ultimately, immortality. The constellation of Heracles itself is not made of the brightest stars. It is a humble figure, often depicted as a giant kneeling, weary from his toils. But surrounding him in the sky are the very beasts and monsters he was tasked to overcome. His story is not told in his own constellation alone, but in the constellations all around him, the lion and the hydra. The first of his labors was to defeat the Nemean lion. This was no ordinary lion. It was a monstrous beast whose golden fur was impervious to all weapons. No spear, no arrow, no sword could pierce its hide. The Greeks, when they looked up at that powerful leonine pattern the Babylonians had already identified, saw not just the lion of summer's heat, but the very monster Heracles had to face. They layered their own story upon the ancient one. Heracles tracked the lion to its cave. When his arrows bounced harmlessly off its skin and his sword failed to cut it, he cast his weapons aside. He wrestled the great beast, matching its monstrous power with his own divine strength. He trapped it in its lair, and using his bare hands, he subdued the unconquerable creature. From then on, he wore its impenetrable pelt as his armor, a symbol of his first great victory. And so, when you see the constellation Leo, the lion, rising in the spring and commanding the summer, you can picture the Babylonian bull of heaven making way, or you can see the first great triumph of Heracles, a testament to the idea that some obstacles cannot be overcome with tools, but only with raw inner strength and courage. His second labor was even more daunting. He had to destroy the Lernaean Hydra, a gigantic 9-headed water serpent that lurked in the swamps. The creature was a nightmare of regeneration. For every one head that was cut off, 2 more would grow back in its place. And to make matters worse, the central head was immortal. Heracles was not alone in this task. He had his loyal nephew Iolaus by his side. As Heracles sliced off a head, Iolaus would use a torch to cauterize the stump, preventing new heads from growing. But the goddess Hera, who despised Heracles, was watching. To aid her monster, she sent a small ally into the fray, a giant crab, which scuttled out of the swamp and pinched at the hero's foot, trying to distract him. Heracles, annoyed, crushed the crab with his heel and continued his fight. Eventually severed the final immortal head and buried it under a great rock. He had defeated the undefeatable. The gods, it is said, placed the Hydra in the sky as a constellation, and it is the largest of all 88 modern constellations, a long, winding river of stars that snakes across a huge portion of the celestial sphere. It reminds us of a challenge that seems endless, that seems to grow with every effort to defeat it. And what of the little crab, Carcinus? Hera, grateful for its small but brave effort, also placed it among the stars. It became the constellation Cancer. It is a very faint, delicate pattern of stars nestled between the bright twins of Gemini and the majestic Lion. It is so faint, in fact, that it can be hard to see without a truly dark sky. It is a quiet, humble constellation, a tribute to the idea that even the smallest effort in a great struggle is worthy of being remembered. A gentle reminder that even in a story of gods and monsters, there is room for the small and the loyal. The guardian of the golden apples. Let us drift to another of Heracles' great labors, his journey to the garden of the Hesperides at the very edge of the world, to fetch the golden apples of immortality. These apples grew on a tree that was a wedding gift to the goddess Hera, and guarding this tree was a fearsome, 100-headed dragon named Ladon, who never slept. To complete his task, Heracles had to overcome this powerful guardian. After a mighty struggle, Ladon was slain, and Heracles was able to take the apples. Hera, saddened by the loss of her faithful dragon, placed its image in the stars, right at the very top of the sky. This is the constellation Draco, the dragon. It is a wonderful winding pattern of stars. It doesn't circle the path of the sun like the zodiac, but instead it coils around the northern celestial pole. For centuries, its tail lay very near the North Star. The dragon is not a monster of chaos in the sky, but an eternal guardian of the axis upon which the entire heavens seem to turn. If you can find the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, you can find Draco, the dragon, winding its way between them. It is a beautiful, serpentine shape, a constant, silent presence in the northern sky. It rests there now, its great labor done, a glittering, celestial guardian, forever circling the pole, a symbol of eternal vigilance, now at peace. And so Heracles, the hero, kneels in the sky, surrounded by his memories. The lion, the Hydra, the dragon. His constellation is not one of blazing glory, but of quiet endurance. It is a testament to a life of toil, and the quiet peace that comes after the struggle is over. He is not fighting in the sky. He is resting. A hero who has finally earned his place among the stars in a long, deep, and peaceful sleep. Chapter 4. A River of Stars and the Weaver's Tale. The stories of the Greeks are powerful. They are filled with heroes and monsters, passion and drama. They are so powerful that they have dominated the way much of the world sees the sky. But they are not the only stories. As you continue to rest, to drift on the soft currents of your breath, let us allow these Greek figures to fade, like mist in the morning sun. Let us empty the canvas of the sky for a moment and see it with new eyes. Let us travel now across continents and centuries to ancient China. Here, the sky was not a stage for the dramas of gods and mortals. It was a reflection of the earthly kingdom, a celestial bureaucracy, mirroring the emperor's court on earth. The sky was meticulously mapped, the stars grouped into mansions. The pole star was the emperor himself, the stable, unmoving center of the universe. The stars circling him were his family, his ministers, his advisors. Every celestial event, a comet, a meteor shower, a new star, was a message, an omen related to the running of the empire. It was a vision of the cosmos that was less about epic struggle and more about harmony, balance, and order. But even within this structured, orderly, celestial empire, there was room for poetry, room for a love story of breathtaking beauty and sadness, a story that is still celebrated in many parts of Asia today. It is the story of the weaver girl and the cowherd. Look with me to the summer sky. Even in a city, you can often see a brilliant star, almost directly overhead. This is Vega. The Greeks saw it as part of a lyre, a celestial harp. But to the Chinese, this brilliant star was Xinu, the weaver girl. She was the daughter of the celestial emperor, and she was the most skilled weaver in all the heavens. Day after day, she sat at her loom by the banks of the great river, and she wove the clouds and the mists that filled the sky. Her robes of silver and rose were the beautiful fabric of the heavens themselves. But she was lonely. Her father, the emperor, took pity on her. He looked across the great river and saw a handsome, humble young man, Niulung, the cowherd, represented by the bright star Altair. He was a diligent young man who tended his celestial flock. The emperor arranged for them to meet, and when they did, they fell instantly and deeply in love. They were so enchanted with one another that they forgot all of their duties. Xinu no longer wove the clouds. Niulung's flock wandered away. The celestial emperor was furious. The cosmic order had been disturbed. As a punishment, he drew a line between them. He took the great, shimmering band of stars that we call the Milky Way, and he made it a real river in the sky, the Silver River, a barrier that they could never cross. He banished them to opposite sides, to live forever apart. The weaver girl was returned to her loom, and the cowherd to his fields, with only the impassable river of stars between them. All they could do was look at each other from afar, their hearts filled with sorrow. But their love was so deep, and their sadness so profound, that it touched the hearts of all the magpies in the world. And so once a year, on the 7th day of the 7th lunar month, a great flock of magpies would fly up into the heavens. They would form a bridge with their wings, a living, fluttering bridge across the Silver River. And for that one night, and one night only, the weaver girl and the cowherd Vega and Altair could cross the bridge of birds and be together. This story gives the night sky a different feeling, doesn't it? It is not about heroes and monsters. It is a story of love, of longing, of duty, and of a brief, beautiful reunion. The Milky Way is no longer just a faint, hazy band of distant stars. It becomes a silver river of longing. The two bright stars, Vega and Altair, are not just points of light. They are lovers, separated by a cosmic decree, waiting patiently all year for a single night. And the fainter star, Deneb, which with Vega and Altair forms a great summer triangle in this story, it becomes the magpie bridge itself, or a chaperone for the lovers. As you rest, you can feel the quiet poetry of this tale. The vastness of the sky becomes a symbol for the vastness of their separation. The single night of their reunion is a promise that even the greatest distances can sometimes be bridged, if only for a moment. It is a story that speaks to the heart's deep capacity for patience and for hope. It teaches us to look at the Milky Way not just with scientific wonder, but with a sense of gentle melancholy and beauty. It is the river of tears and the river of reunion. Of course, let us continue our gentle drift through the star stories of the world, letting the quiet tales soothe us into a state of deep rest. The sky belongs to everyone. Every culture on every continent has looked up and found its own meaning in the celestial light show. The patterns we see, the stories we tell, are often shaped by the land we live on and the lives we lead. Let us leave the celestial courts of China and the heroic stages of Greece and travel south, far south. Let us journey across the great oceans to the continents of South America and Australia. Here, in the southern hemisphere, the view of the cosmos is breathtakingly different. The center of our Milky Way galaxy passes almost directly overhead, a brilliant, thick river of light, far brighter and more complex than it appears from the north. The familiar northern constellations are gone, or they hang upside down on the horizon. A new cast of celestial characters fills the sky. But here, something remarkable happens. Many of the traditional storytellers, the ancient peoples of the Andes and the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, did not just connect the dots of light. They did something wonderfully different. They looked at the spaces in between. They found their constellations in the darkness, the dark constellations of the Andes. Imagine you are resting high in the Andes mountains of Peru. The air is thin and cold and incredibly clear. The sky is so dark that the Milky Way does not look like a faint milky cloud. It looks like a great, textured river of light, filled with bright knots and dark, shadowy lanes. The Inca and their descendants saw this river, which they called Mayu, as the source of all life. It was a celestial reflection of their own sacred river, the Urubamba. They believed that all the animals on earth had a celestial counterpart, a prototype that lived in this river of stars. But these counterparts were not made of stars. They were made of the darkness, the great dark patches and dust lanes within the Milky Way, which modern astronomers call nebulae, were seen as the animals themselves. They were silhouettes, shadows against the luminous backdrop of the Mayu. As you rest, let your eyes adjust to this new way of seeing. Do not look for the points of light. Look for the shapes in the darkness. They're in a particularly dark patch near the Southern Cross. You can see the utu, the tinamou, a flightless bird like a partridge that lived in the mountains. It is a dark, pear-shaped blot against the stellar glow, and next to it, a larger, more distinct shadow. This is the llama icana. Her long neck is stretched out as if she is drinking from the celestial river. Her two bright eyes are two of the closest stars to our own sun, Alpha and Beta Centauri. They are the only points of light in this dark constellation. One story says that as the llama drinks the water from the river, it prevents a great flood on the earth below. She is a protector, a life giver. Her dark form a comforting presence in the sky. Beneath her belly, you can see a smaller dark shape, her baby, the Uno llama suckling. Following her is another dark patch, the fox, Attic, who is trying to steal the baby llama. And there is Hamp-Atu, the toad, and Meshakue, the serpent. This is a completely different way of reading the sky. It is a form of celestial sculpture, seeing the form by seeing what is absent. It tells us that stories can be found not just in the bright, obvious moments, but in the quiet, dark spaces in between. It is a profound and beautiful philosophy. The darkness is not empty. It is full of life, full of stories, full of meaning. It feels restful, doesn't it? To know that even the shadows have their purpose, their place in the great cosmic story. It suggests that the parts of ourselves or our lives that feel dark or empty may also hold a hidden shape, a quiet power, a story waiting to be seen against a brighter background. The emu in the sky. Now let us drift even further south, across the vast Pacific, to the ancient land of Australia. For tens of thousands of years, the world's oldest living cultures have read the sky. Their knowledge of the stars is deep, complex, and woven into the very fabric of their law, their society, and their connection to the land, which they call the dreaming. Like the people of the Andes, many Aboriginal cultures saw a great figure in the dark lanes of the Milky Way. When the people of the Ku-ring-gai Chase National Park near modern-day Sydney looked up in the autumn and winter, they saw the emu in the sky. The head of the emu is a very dark, prominent nebula called the Coal Sack, right next to the Southern Cross. Its long neck and body are the dark dust lanes that stretch for a vast distance along the Milky Way. The position of this great dark emu throughout the year was a perfect calendar, intrinsically linked to the life of the real emus on the land. In the autumn, When the emu in the sky was first rising on the horizon, it looked like an emu running. This was the time that real female emus were chasing the males for courtship. A couple of months later, the emu in the sky would be horizontal across the sky. This signaled that the emus on the land were now sitting on their nests. This was the time to collect the emu eggs, a vital source of food. But the law was clear. You must not harm the nesting bird. The sky taught not just when, but how to live in balance with the world. Later in the year, as the emu in the sky appeared to sink below the horizon, it looked like an emu wading into a waterhole. This is a sign that the waterholes on the land were filling with water, and the baby emus would soon be hatching. The story of the emu in the sky is not a myth about gods and monsters from a time long past. It is a living, practical guide, a story that connects the people to the sky to the land, and the land to the life upon it, in one seamless, harmonious cycle. It is a story of deep listening, of paying attention, of seeing the connection in all things. As you lie here, listening, you are also a part of cycle, the cycle of day and night, the cycle of waking and sleeping, the cycle of breath moving in and moving out. Let these stories of the southern skies of the darkness that is full of life reassure you. There is beauty in the shadows. There is rest in the quiet spaces. The universe is not just a collection of brilliant, noisy events. It is also made of silence, of darkness, of peaceful, quiet waiting. Let your mind drift in that peaceful darkness now, like the dark form of the celestial llama, safe, protected, and a part of the great, shimmering river of the cosmos. Chapter 5. The Wanderers and the Great Bear. Our journey is bringing us closer to home. Now, back to the stars you might see if you looked out your own window on a clear night. We have seen how the sky can be a stage of bureaucracy, a river, and a dark canvas. Now let us look at it as a map and a clock. Long before the Greeks told their elaborate stories, and perhaps even before the Babylonians recorded their omens, ancient people all over the northern hemisphere noticed one particularly striking group of stars. It is a pattern so clear, so prominent, that it has been a guidepost for countless generations. It is known by many names. In Britain, it is the plow. In Germany, the Great Wagon. In America, the Big Dipper. But its most ancient and widespread name is the Great Bear. It's a curious name, isn't it? A bear. The 7 stars form a saucepan or a ladle, it's true. But a bear? It doesn't look much like one. To see the bear, you have to include several of the fainter stars nearby to form its head and its legs. And most strangely, the handle of the dipper forms a long, prominent tail. Bears, as we know, do not have long tails. So why did so many cultures, separated by vast oceans and thousands of years, from Siberia to North America to Greece, all look at this pattern and see a great bear? This is one of the great mysteries of celestial mythology. One theory is that the story is incredibly ancient. It may have originated in Eurasia more than 15,000 years ago, during the last ice age. The story may have been carried across the Bering Land Bridge into the Americas by the first peoples. A story so old, it predates written history. A whisper that has survived for millennia. Let's listen to one of those whispers, now a version of the story told by the Mi'kmaq people of eastern Canada and other neighboring tribes. The Celestial Hunt. For them, the 4 stars that form the bowl of the dipper are the bear Muyen. The 3 stars in the handle are not a tail. They are 3 hunters who are chasing her. The first hunter, right behind the bear, is Robin. The next is Chickadee. And the last hunter, the farthest away, is Moosebird. Chickadee is carrying the cooking pot to cook the bear in, which is the very faint star you can sometimes see right next to him. A star we call Mizar's companion, Alcor. Being able to see this faint star was often used as a test of good eyesight. The story of this celestial hunt is a story that explains the turning of the seasons. In the spring, when the dipper is high in the sky after sunset, the bear has just woken from her long winter hibernation and has left her den. The 3 hunters begin to chase her. Throughout the summer, they chase her across the northern horizon. In the autumn, as the constellation dips low to the horizon, the hunters finally catch up to her. Robin, the first hunter, shoots the bear with an arrow. The bear rears up on her hind legs and falls over. As she does, her blood spatters out. It falls down onto the trees of the earth, turning the leaves of the maple tree a brilliant, bloody red. That, the storytellers say, is why we have the beautiful colors of autumn. Robin, covered in the bear's blood, shakes himself off, and in doing so, he colors the chest of a small bird on earth, creating the first robin redbreast. The hunters cook and eat the bear, and her life spirit, her skeleton, continues to lie on its back in the sky throughout the winter. But her spirit will enter a new bear, who remains sleeping in the den until the spring comes again, and the celestial hunt begins once more. It is a perfect cyclical story. It is a clock. It is a calendar. It explains the changing colors of the leaves, the behavior of the animals, and the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. It is a story not just of the sky, but of the whole world working in harmony. The Greek story of this constellation is also one of a bear. They called it Ursa Major. Their story involves a beautiful nymph named Callisto, a companion of the goddess Artemis. Callisto was tricked by Zeus, and she broke her vow of chastity. When Artemis discovered this, she was furious, and in her rage, she transformed the beautiful Callisto into a great, lumbering bear. Callisto lived for years in the forest as a bear. One day, she came face to face with a young hunter. It was her own son, Arcas, now grown up, who did not recognize her. As he raised his spear to kill the bear, Zeus, the king of the gods, looked down from Olympus. He could not bear to see the tragedy unfold. To save them both, he snatched them up into the heavens. He turned Callisto into the constellation Ursa Major, the Great Bear, and he turned her son, Arcas, into the neighboring constellation Ursa Minor, the Little Bear. And to place them in the sky, he had to swing them by their tails, which is why the Greeks said, "These celestial bears have such unnaturally long tails." And Hera, Zeus's jealous wife, was still not satisfied. She went to the god of the sea and demanded that the bear never be allowed to rest. And so in the Greek latitudes, the Great Bear never sets. It never dips below the horizon to bathe in the ocean. It is forced to circle the pole star forever and ever, a constant, weary wanderer. Whichever story you prefer, the eternal hunt or the eternal wandering, the Great Bear is a constant, a guide. For centuries, travelers and sailors have used its two front stars, the pointers, to find the North Star, Polaris. Polaris is the star that sits almost directly above the Earth's North Pole. As the Earth spins, all the other stars appear to circle around this one steady point of light. To find it is to find your direction, to find north. As you lie here safe and sound, imagine all the travelers throughout history who have looked up at that same pattern of stars for guidance, for comfort, for a sense of direction in a vast and lonely world. They are your companions tonight. Their hopes, their fears, and their journeys are all part of the starlight that reaches you now. The Great Bear is a reminder that even when we feel lost, there are guideposts. There are constants. There's a way to find our bearings. And as you drift toward sleep, your own steady breathing can be a guidepost, a constant rhythm, an anchor in the quiet darkness of your room. Let it guide you deeper and deeper into a state of profound and peaceful rest. Of course, let us allow the stories of bears and hunters to recede and drift even deeper into the nature of this celestial magic, following the light itself on its incredible journey. We have heard the stories that humanity has woven from the stars, tales of heroes, lovers, animals, and gods. But there is another story to tell tonight. It is the story of the starlight itself. It is a story of physics and biology, but do not worry. This is not a lecture. This is a lullaby of science, a tale of incredible journeys, and of the quiet miracle that is happening right now, behind your resting eyelids. Let us shrink ourselves down beyond the size of a single grain of sand, down to the size of something so small it has no size at all. Let us become a particle of light, a photo. Chapter 6. The Long Journey of a Little Light. Our story begins in a place of unimaginable heat and pressure, the heart of a distant star. Imagine a place where atoms are not the calm, orderly things we learn about in school. Here they're stripped bare, swirling, chaotic plasma of nuclei and electrons, crushed together by immense gravity. In this stellar furnace, the simplest of all atoms, hydrogen, is being fused into helium. And in that moment of fusion, that alchemical wedding of one element into another, something is born. A tiny packet of pure energy, a photon. That's us. Our birth is violent, instantaneous. But our journey has just begun, and it will not be a quick one. We are born in the core of the star. We cannot simply fly out. The star's interior is impossibly dense. The moment we begin our journey, we crash into another particle, an electron, perhaps. We are absorbed, and then a moment later, re-emitted in a completely random direction. We take another step, and we are absorbed and re-emitted again, and again, and again. Our path is not a straight line. It is a staggering, chaotic dance known as a random walk. We lurch one step forward, 2 steps back, 5 steps sideways. We are trapped in a labyrinth of plasma. For how long? The journey from the core of a star like our sun to its surface, a distance of less than 500,000 miles, can take, on average, 100,000 years. Think of that. 100,000 years. The little photon of light that left the sun 8 minutes ago to warm the earth today began its journey inside the sun when modern humans were first leaving Africa. It has been stumbling its way through the star's interior for all of human history. It is a journey of incredible patience, of persistence, a slow, drunken dance in the dark, lasting for an eternity. But finally, we reach the surface of the star, the photosphere. Here, the density is low enough that we can finally break free, and we fly. Suddenly, we are traveling in a straight line at the fastest speed the universe allows. The ultimate speed limit, 186,000 miles per second. Our journey through the star took 100 millennia. Our journey across the vast, cold, empty void of space will be much longer. Let us imagine we are a photon that left a star in the constellation Orion, perhaps the brilliant blue-white star, Rigel. We are on a journey to a tiny blue-green planet, a world of water and life, some 860 light-years away. For 860 years, we travel. We are a single lonely particle, crossing an ocean of nothingness. We pass through shimmering clouds of interstellar dust and gas grate, dark nebulae where new stars are being born. We see other suns, other galaxies drift by in silent, slow motion. The universe is vast and cold and exquisitely quiet. There's no sound, no resistance, just our relentless forward motion. While we travel, empires rise and fall on that distant blue planet. Cathedrals are built. New continents are discovered. The stories we heard earlier of Heracles and the Weaver Girl are told and retold, written down and passed through generations. And still we fly on. Our journey is almost over now. We are approaching a solar system. We fly past a giant, gaseous planet with beautiful rings, past a red, dusty world, and there it is. Our destination, Earth. We plunge into its atmosphere, that shimmering, invisible river that makes the stars twinkle. Our long, straight journey is bent, just slightly, in the last few moments. And then our journey ends. After 100,000 years inside a star and 860 years crossing the void, our long travels come to a close in the most miraculous of ways. We are captured. We pass through the cornea and the lens of a human eye. We strike a single, tiny cell at the back of the retina, a rod cell, exquisitely sensitive to the faintest light. And in that instant, our energy, the energy we have carried all this way from the heart of a star, is converted into a tiny electrical signal, a little spark of information. Chapter 7. The Quiet Miracle of Sight. That tiny spark is where the magic truly happens. The universe has done its part. Now, the rest of the story happens inside you. As you lie here resting, this process is happening, even with your eyes closed. Faint traces of light filter through your eyelids, and your mind is constantly, quietly interpreting the world. Let's follow that little electrical signal. It joins with signals from millions of other rods and cones, the cells that detect light and color. They flow along the optic nerve, a great cable of nerve fibers, carrying a torrent of raw data. This data is not a picture. It is just a chaotic stream of electrical pulses. It's like the static on an old television set. It has no inherent meaning. The signal arrives at the back of your brain, in a region called the visual cortex. And here, your brain becomes a storyteller. It takes that chaotic static, and it begins to look for patterns. The same way our ancestors looked for patterns in the sky. Your brain says, this cluster of signals, that's an edge. This change in frequency, that's a shift in color. This pattern of firing, that looks like a shape I've seen before. It compares the signals to its vast library of memories. It consults its knowledge of the world. It makes assumptions. It fills in the gaps. It takes the raw data of a photon from the star Rigel, and it weaves it into a perception. It says, that is a bright blue-white point of light in the sky. It is part of a pattern I know as Orion, and I have a story about Orion. He was a great hunter. The entire experience, the breathtaking beauty of a star-filled night, is not out there in the sky. It is created in this very moment in the silent, dark, and wondrous theater of your own mind. The universe provides the light. You provide the meaning. It is a partnership, a collaboration between the cosmos and your consciousness. Every star you have ever seen, every beautiful sunset, every gentle moonlit night has been a story you and the universe have told together. And it is a quiet, effortless miracle. It happens without any conscious thought. Your brain, this incredible ancient organ, is a master storyteller, constantly taking the raw, meaningless sensations of the world and weaving them into a rich, meaningful experience. As you drift now, let go of the need to control. Let go of the need to understand everything. Trust in this quiet miracle that is happening within you. Trust that your mind knows how to take the chaos and create order. Trust that it knows how to take the sensations of the day, the sounds, the sights, the feelings, and process them, sort them, and put them away while you rest. That is the true purpose of sleep. It is a time for your inner storyteller to do its work, to take the raw data of your waking hours and weave it into the fabric of your memory, yourself, your dreams. You don't have to do anything at all. Simply rest, simply be, and allow the quiet cosmic story to unfold, both above you and within you. Let the gentle darkness behind your eyes be as full of potential as the dark nebulae of the Andes. Let the quiet hum of your own body be as constant and reassuring as the eternal circling of the Great Bear. You are a part of the story. You are made of stardust, as the saying goes. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, it was all forged in the heart of a star long, long ago. You are a child of the cosmos. And tonight it is time to come home. Home to the quiet darkness. Home to the deep, healing peace of sleep. Chapter 8. The Constellations of Sleep. As we settle into the final, deepest phase of our journey tonight, let us invent our own constellations, not of stars, but of feelings. Let go of the names, Orion, Ursa Major, Cassiopeia. Let the stories fade like gentle echoes. Look up into the vast, dark canvas of your own mind and let new patterns emerge. They're a cluster of gentle thoughts, the memory of a kind word, a warm smile, a moment of simple happiness from your day. Let them form a constellation. Give it a restful name, the constellation of gratitude. See its soft, warm glow. And there another pattern, the feeling of your muscles letting go, the heaviness of your arms, the release of tension in your shoulders and your jaw. Connect these points of relaxation. This is the constellation of release. Watch it shimmer with a peaceful, silvery light, and hear a large, quiet, dark space, the space of not knowing. the space of things you cannot solve tonight. This is not a frightening emptiness. It is the dark nebula of surrender. Like the emu or the llama in the sky, it has a shape, a purpose. Its purpose is to hold a quiet space for you, to remind you that not everything needs to be filled with light. Not everything needs an answer right now. Breathe in and breathe out. Your breath is the rhythm of your own personal cosmos. Each inhale is the gathering of energy of starlight. Each exhale is a letting go, a release into the quiet void. In and out, a slow, steady cosmic dance. The universe does not hurry. The stars do not strive. They simply exist in a state of magnificent, silent grace. And you, tonight, can share in that grace. You are a universe unto yourself, a collection of 1 trillion atoms, all working in harmony to give you this moment of life, this moment of rest. There's nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be, no one you need to become. You are already a part of the grand, beautiful, and restful story of the cosmos. Allow the gentle gravity of sleep to pull you in. It is a safe and welcoming force. Like a planet held in its orbit, you can rest in its embrace. Drift now. Drift on the silver river of your dreams. Drift into the deep, dark, healing spaces between the stars. Rest well, sleepy storyteller. Rest well.